weeks as he takes his first managerial post in football. He's over at Charlotte Independence and we spoke to him today, so that is coming up. We have Rory O'Connor and Eddie O'Sullivan on Monday Night Rugby, a clean sweep for the Irish provinces in Europe. Gary Breen as well on the weekend's action. What were the odds as Virgil van Dijk skied his shot last week that we would be talking this week about Liverpool clear of Manchester City at the top of the table? 53106. We are at Off the Ball on Twitter. Obviously there has been the Raheem Sterling situation as well, which we will get into. Dan McDonnell of the Irish Independent is here. Hello.
Hi, Joe.
And Richie McCormack as usual. Hello.
Well done. Or Dan. Joe, how are you?
Well, I'm also here.
He's all right.
Yeah, say hi to Dan as well. Yeah. As Virgil van Dijk skied his ball in the final seconds of the Merseyside derby and Liverpool were all set to go 5 points behind Man City, the thought that they would be top of the league next weekend was far-fetched, and here we are. Do we have a title race, Dan? Do we?
I wouldn't. Well, I mean, yeah, in theory, Liverpool are winning enough games to make it a valid discussion. I don't think they're going to win it though.
No.
But they, there are those moments. I mean, it's the Man City missed penalty. There's the, when Van Dijk actually committed the foul in the meeting between the sides, and the Merseyside derby, and actually they've had a bit of luck, really, haven't they? Then Liverpool had a fair bit of luck.
You need luck, Dan.
But that's it makes it interesting because City did look sort of in invincible territory, but they were sort of fairly enough. As much as they didn't do a huge amount wrong, at the same time, the last 20-25 minutes of the game the other day, it was like, they sort of got what they deserved. So
the Irish women's hockey team, the Irish rugby team, Mullinalaghta. That is the conversation for 2018 Team of the Year now, Dan. Team
of the Year. Yeah, I wonder, have they, Mullinalaghta, have they come too late? You know, some of these awards...
I'd already given out.
Yeah, like the almost decisions have almost been made, and I know even like the Phillips, the Manager of the Year awards this week. I think December actually goes into the next year.
It does,
if you get me. So they could be screwed by timing. Mm-hmm. But I mean, it's a great story. I don't know if have you read much of the stuff around it.
A little bit.
But John Green did a piece yesterday in the Sunday Indo.
Yeah.
He's obviously from Longford, so would sort of have a very good handle on the area, and
it's half a parish basically.
Half a parish. No shops in it. Yeah. Two pubs, one of which isn't opened. Like a church and a community centre, and there was a line in it that struck me. It was like a picture of a team. I think it was like a team photo picture, and John was speaking to someone who said, yeah, pretty much that picture there is like all the lads in this area between the age of 18 and 30 something, with the exception of maybe two lads who, I don't know, have they emigrated or just don't like sport, but that's it. And I think in terms of a sheer underdog tale, if you're going to, here we go, these great round table end of year debates about teams and players of the year and stuff, where you have to chip away at some valid contenders to further your own cause.
Yeah.
But in terms of the sheer act of a team doing something that defies logic and odds and all these other variables and factors that should come into it, that in itself is a pretty damn good story.
Well, if you're going down, it depends what criteria you use. If you're going down the beaten the greatest odds argument, which I suppose is something you can do for these Team of the Year discussions, then they have definitely beaten greater odds than the Irish rugby team have beaten. Although, I mean, considerable if you were to go Six Nations Grand Slam, at the start of the year, Six Nations Grand Slam, a series win in Australia and the All Blacks too, you would say, okay, that's...
It's astonishingly good, but they haven't beaten odds. They haven't beaten odds.
Yeah.
Really. They've been outsiders, but they're not
beaten odds.
They're not punching above their weight dramatically, really, are they? I mean, they are a bit. They have a very... They're an unbelievably professional and well-drilled operation.
No, that's true.
That has a huge degree of control over their players.
So are their competitors.
And they're exactly, but... I'm just saying.
The Irish women's hockey team now surpassed all expectations.
Good underdog story, yeah.
Yeah, but not a great underdog story, you're saying.
No, I'd always lean towards the underdog tale.
You're that way.
And I think the hockey team is definitely...
And was it extra sweet that they beat Crokes, who were sponsored by Bank of Ireland? Mullinalaghta don't even have a sponsor. Those fancy Dan Doves.
They don't have a sponsor now, I didn't know.
They did yesterday. I saw something on the jersey yesterday, but for much of the season, they haven't even had a sponsor. This is what you're talking about.
No, it is. I mean, there's obviously sort of great coverage coming out of it.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not someone who follows the sort of GEA week to week, but it does seem like that some of the club stories in the last couple of weeks have actually delivered, a bit more sort of people are relating to it a bit more maybe than other stuff.
We obviously tried to get people from Mullinalaghta on the show this evening, but that ship has sailed.
They are good. Well, actually,
They are putting the party in Guidor to shame, I would think. I mean, we'll get them at some stage in the next week
You might
or
just keep
two.
that one under the radar because everyone was watching the Guidor one for like 4 days, 5 days. It felt like there was a live link to it that we all had. It was just there on the live stream option the whole time.
Yeah. No, it's true.
So maybe they've... I don't know, like if they're... Because I saw again that they don't even... Where they have their functions after the game or they food after the game, it's actually in one of the nearby parishes as well or something like that. So I don't know, is there a little tour they can do?
Yeah.
But
Well, it seems the first port of call last night was actually the cemetery. On the
yeah, that's something they've done for every game for the last couple of years, someone was saying.
Yeah. So we'll get hold of them eventually. I mean, it's 7 o'clock now, the day after, so
Not a chance.
you can imagine what state everyone's in.
Not a good one.
A great one.
Not a good one. But you will find them.
So obviously the big story of the weekend really has emanated from Stamford Bridge, and I think there's the event itself and then Sterling's thoughts on media treatment of black players. That's really opened up a very interesting, worthwhile discussion, I think. So we'll get into that a little bit this hour and then maybe more so in the football show. We've been chasing good, solid guests. We almost had Paul McCarthy, who had a very interesting thread on Twitter, former sports editor at News of the World, but it seems now he's unavailable. And one or two others besides John Barnes and Garth Crooks. Just doesn't quite suit them to come on this evening. But we'll talk about it, I think. We'll tease through it ourselves on the football show. And that's all on the way. Jim McGinn is coming up around 7:30. And our Newsround is brought to you this evening with Screwfix.ie, championing the trade, a choice of over 20,000 quality trade products. And Rich, you are starting with the very latest on the Stamford Bridge story.
Yeah, Chelsea have suspended 4 individuals from attending games at Stamford Bridge pending further investigations into alleged racial abuse aimed at Raheem Sterling. The club say they're fully supporting a police investigation after Sterling confirmed to Scotland Yard that he was racially abused during Saturday's 2-0 win for Chelsea. Chelsea themselves say if there is any evidence of ticket holders engaging in racist behaviour, then they will issue themselves severe sanctions. Manchester City have welcomed Chelsea's statement, while the PFA say they stand shoulder to shoulder with Sterling on the matter. Sterling himself says media coverage of himself and other young black players fuels racist behaviour. John Barnes was a guest of BBC Breakfast this morning, saying that abuse suffered by Sterling and others is part of a wider cultural shortcoming.
It's not getting worse, but because we didn't hear it, we thought it was getting better.
Right.
Now, in football, what football can do is they can say, if there are any racist chanting, we're going to kick you out to the ground. So for any unconsciously racist football fans, all you have to do is keep your mouth shut. That doesn't mean it's getting any better. But of course, in times of confrontation that you saw with Raheem, people show their true colours. And people say, so you can't tell me those 3 people who actually were racially abusing him. There would have been hundreds who probably would have felt like saying the same thing, but they didn't. So does that then mean it doesn't exist? So until we start to tackle it holistically, looking at how to get rid of racism, and the only way we can do that is to tackle the cause, not the symptom. And that incident is the symptom of it, as is we've seen symptoms from Luis Suarez, John Terry. We've seen so many symptoms. And very much like a disease, you have to tackle the cause of racism, not the symptoms. And all we're doing is tackling the symptoms.
Barnes in that interview, we'll play more of it actually on the football show. It's very good. It was on BBC Breakfast this morning. He was saying he's often wondered if media is a reflection of society or if actually media influences society, and he was very much of the opinion that it's the latter, that it's media that influences society as opposed to merely just reflecting it. And Sterling really prompted the discussion with his Instagram post. He held up an example of the treatment of one black teammate, Adara Bayo, and one white teammate, Phil Foden, both of whom bought a house. And certainly the story about the black teammate was highlighting how he hasn't even started a Premier League match. The house he bought seemingly was a mansion as opposed to a home, which Phil Foden bought. And that was a fairly glaring example. And it was in the same newspaper as well. And that's prompted a discussion which has almost been going on around Sterling for some time now. We've touched on it recently, that there seems to be an undertone to the coverage of Sterling.
Yeah, and you do wonder, is it sort of conscious or unconscious? I know that one of the reporters that wrote one of those stories, a guy called Anthony Joseph.
I have his quotes here.
Who I think I might be from an Asian background, and sort of went into a lengthy explanation of the context of the guy not having played a game, because I think he said it was in response to a theme or a talking point or a topic in that week.
There'd been a BT documentary on teenage footballers earning millions that week, so he said it tied in with that theme. Ironically, he says he received a ton of racist abuse himself on the back of the Sterling story, and it's cropped up again. So he says it's astonishing to say that it was driven by race. It was topical, not based on race. And he said as well, it was done in January at a time when BT aired a documentary on teenage footballers earning millions. It was topical and there was a huge debate about it. He said the same day there was at least an hour-long segment on the very same issue on TalkSport. Reporters don't do headlines at Mail Online, but I still don't feel it vilified him at all. And nor did I even make a connection of his colour. It didn't even cross my mind.
But at papers, on certain papers, there are style guides in terms of how they will refer to certain players and people with certain backgrounds, and those stories definitely fit that dynamic. But one of the things that Barnes highlights as well, I thought if it was in the BBC interview or it was elsewhere, and a couple of others have raised this as well, obviously the racist abuse suffered is abhorrent, but why is it acceptable for people to talk in such an angered way and direct hate in such an angered way at footballers within the confines of a stadium?
Yeah, even racially motivated or not.
Like what raised you to that?
It is mad.
To that level, it's insane.
Oh, well, what's the old cliche? You know, it's a chance for you work hard all week, you come to a football match to vent.
Yeah, well, if you take the racial stuff out of it, that is a part of a culture, whether you like it or not. That is the atmosphere within stadiums. That there is. I mean, and it's a broader debate about like the makeup of Premier League attendances, and even the lack of diversity that there sometimes is. That you might look at a picture of a Premier League stand at any point, at any moment in time, and it'll be a lot of like white men of a similar age bracket just there, and that portrays a certain image in people's minds when they see them sort of aggressively chanting together. But I don't know. I mean, I that's an interesting point you mentioned about Barnes and the, does media sort of influence society or does it reflect it? And like, I don't know. I don't really believe that like there's people sitting in a room who decide, well, this is the type of language that we're going to use about this person, and it's part of like some coherent campaign.
Yeah.
But I think that the way in which it's presented, I'm not sure about like a style guide or anything like that. I think it's just it's a sort of an unconscious thing, and it is probably playing towards certain
they know their audience.
Stereotypes. Yeah, exactly. And
see, there's another element.
But I don't think it's as calculated.
Yeah, I agree with
as people might think. But there is almost and the only thing I would say about media influence in society is that the particular one of the sites in question, like the Mail one, if you ever go to the comment section, it's unbelievable.
No, it's vile.
It's like it's a cesspit.
Yeah, I know it is in every story. But can I just jump in there at one point? So there is another. There's the treatment of black players and white players, and on the face of it, a very similar story in that same paper. And I'll go through later on when we talk about it more. There's a thread on Twitter which has about 30 different Raheem Sterling stories.
Yeah, which is
if he's in a Primark or he's on a cheap EasyJet flight, the implication is he's cheap, and if he's buying his mum a house, he's extravagant and doesn't know the value of money. And as Paul McCarthy put it in his tweet, they use the word bling, which he says is tabloid shorthand for a young black lifestyle.
Yeah, I think that's a fair shout.
But I would, in defence of some of those Sterling stories, say that if Wayne Rooney or David Beckham or other certain players who just seem to work as clickbait, we just seem to be interested in Sterling clearly because that's why they keep putting stories in the paper about him, in the same way that we are about Wayne Rooney when he pops up. If Rooney was spotted in Primark, I fully suspect there would be a 300 grand a week Wayne Rooney, but he's in Primark. Or I fully suspect there would be a Wayne Rooney spends, €80 on cheap flights.
There was a story about Rooney in the last 18 months about him being in a takeaway or something. Do you remember this? There was some story about Wayne Rooney picking food up at the takeaway.
Yeah, there's all that stuff. And Wayne Rooney pisses in an alleyway. You know what I mean? It's just Wayne Rooney attracts those stories. So I think there is certainly a discussion about race, but I also think it's about class. There's a working class thing here. There is an element that, look what happens when you give a council estate boy all of this money. He makes a mess of it. He either makes a mess of it and behaves extravagantly and, kind of just, disgustingly and throws money around on stupid things, or you can't take the boy out of the council estate. Look at him here having a cheapo takeaway. And I think it's a class thing.
And ironically, a lot of the readers of the mass circulation papers in question might actually be from that bracket as well too, which is another angle to the whole thing.
Yeah.
That the audience that in some ways is saying that. And I know I'm really dangerous of going into mass generalisations here, but that is sort of
I will say though, of the Sterling stuff and the stories you mentioned, the very kernel of that is racially motivated. The very kernel of that is preying
on... What do you think it is with Rooney? Because I think very similar stories would have appeared about Rooney.
Rooney's a class council estate thing, but like most footballers are from council estate things. Like you say, there is a certain clickbait element to it, but the very kernel, the very genesis of this issue with Sterling is uppity young black kid wants to be more than he's come from, and there is a tranche of British society and dare I say Irish society that hates to see people of a minority race, of a minority tranche of society, do well for themselves, and that is why these Sterling stories keep generating.
But do you think it's the stories are written from that perspective, or do you think that the stories are aimed because they know it will generate that response from that tranche that does exist?
It can be both.
You know, I think it's somewhere. I think it's
both.
You know, I think
that can vary. I would think.
Yeah,
that's the truth. Marcus Rashford doesn't seem to attract.
The same point is made. The Talksport Drive, to be fair, made a similar point this afternoon.
Right.
Rashford and similar don't attract the same thing. They make the point that because Sterling is of Jamaican background, came there from a pretty young age, he's never been fully, I suppose, welcomed by English society. There was a similar John Barnes we just heard from there. Same thing happened to him. The treatment that he got while he played for England was disgraceful during the course of his career, and he was the best player that they had at certain times, and he was just given awful time. Why? Because the perception is that he wasn't trying his hardest, and the perception he wasn't trying his hardest because he was a black player not trying his hardest, as opposed to a white player.
That also was a different time.
It was a different time, but of course, I mean, I don't think people want to hear like a big political discussion here. But you know, we are in a very particularly curious time. In, you know, if you're sitting watching the House of Commons today for a few hours, or you know, sitting watching a lot of English news and stuff that's gone on over the last sort of 18 months to back to the last 3-4 years, and sort of the emboldened nature of certain debates, you know, and how people feel emboldened to say certain things again, maybe. And there's no doubt that that's possibly lingering there.
That was Robbie Earle's point. He said you got to keep on top of it.
Yeah, and the one thing, I mean, I would say that there's no doubt, and you hear this in sort of, you know, journalistic circles or whatever, and particularly people who've spoken to people who've worked in the news end of things in England in particular, and it generally is like it's news section stuff. It's always the news section of the paper. It's not the sports journalists that are ever really going down this road. It's the house, the lifestyle. A lot of that stuff comes from that end of things, and there is definitely a sense that when the new young star, whoever it might be, comes on the scene, I mean, they do get that. You know, they get trailed for a period of time. I remember hearing like 18 months ago, or a couple of years back again, that apparently Dele Alli was a big one on the list now, you know. Dele Alli came on the scene, whatever his backstory may be, and there was people being sort of sent to wherever he's going just to get a handle on what he's up to. I remember years back there was some story about Micah Richards off in Cyprus or something at some lads' holiday. I remember hearing a story of like someone who was sent out there knowing he was away on a lads' holiday, heading out there to cover that trip effectively, you know, and that is, it's a fairly unbelievable part of the footballer's life that they will deal with that now. But I mean, Sterling has done a good service, I think, yesterday by actually
at least he vocalised it.
He articulated it very well, you know. I mean, he articulated it very well. Also,
and like it wasn't PR written. It wasn't like there was spelling mistakes.
It wasn't handed to his people.
It felt like it wasn't done through his people.
And of course, James McLean has tackled this issue in a different way recently as well. You know, by speaking about some of the stuff that how he feels his case hasn't been taken seriously at times, because there's another uppity element to McLean, as in this Irish lad. Yeah, exactly, which is part of the same mindset.
We'll come back to all that, obviously. There's loads in it, and we'll read you out various bits and pieces. People have been talking about it all day. The next story, Rich, is Robbie Henshaw.
And he's now a major doubt for the start of Ireland's Six Nations campaign. The Leinster centre's hamstring injury is worse than first feared, and he's facing 8 weeks on the sideline as a result. Henshaw will definitely miss the rest of Leinster's Heineken Champions Cup pool games and is in a race against time to be fit for the visit of England to the Aviva on February 2nd. Staying with Leinster, and Jonathan Sexton is their main concern ahead of Saturday's return fixture with Bath. That's due to a calf injury. Jordan Larmour, Dan Levy, Jack Conan and Rory O'Loughlin have all been past fit for that game at the Aviva. And Leinster coach Stuart Lancaster doled out the fitness updates today and also spoke about speculation linking him with an exit from the province when his contract expires in the summer.
I've been consistent since I've been here. You know, I really enjoy Leinster. I really enjoy coaching at Leinster. It's a great team and a great environment to work in. I enjoy club coaching. I enjoy the day in, day out interaction with the players. I enjoy the moments when the internationals are away and we've got the younger players to coach. So and all this speculation. It's like people are ringing me all the time. I don't get any phone calls. So I'm just plowing along, enjoying what I'm doing at Leinster, and I don't look too far ahead anymore. I mean, I was contracted with England to 2019, and that changed, obviously on the World Cup. So I've stopped looking too far ahead now because it's too hard to plan. But I can certainly reassure everyone that I'm very happy at Leinster, that's for sure. So
that's Lancaster giving a sense that he's happy. Maybe the door a touch ajar, but ultimately he's happy. My phone's not ringing. I.e., call me. No, I think he's genuinely happy. On the racist abuse, have you no children? Have you not stood on the touchline of a DDSL match and heard the abuse of Declan Dublin?
So what that's got to do with the Sterling issue?
I think he's implying there's racist abuse on the touchlines of DDSL matches. It's a big accusation.
Well, if there is, I'd suggest you call the guards immediately if you do hear it.
I would call the guards, to be honest. Sorry, lads, isn't it possible that the sports media in the UK just don't like Sterling over some perceived slight or gobby remarks he's aimed at them, and collectively they've decided to turn against him? See, I don't think the sports media
aren't the ones.
I don't think they have any real. I know actually he did come in for some criticism in the World Cup in the summer, and there was a feeling that was unfair. But I think that's a slightly. I'm not sure if that's really part of this discussion here. I think it's the lifestyle, personal stuff is the issue here. Also, I would honestly say, I know people are sceptical of this, but having worked in the media, this sense that we all convene somehow and decide what our agenda is just doesn't happen.
What date's this month's meeting, Joe?
It just really doesn't happen. Most people are just overworked. And
the idea that
they don't get together and decide on concerted campaigns. That said, there's definitely been a theme in the Mail and the Sun on Sterling. But I there's not media conventions that we're not telling you about.
No, I know it sounds self-serving to say that,
but there's really not.
But no, there isn't. But I think the idea of like a particular player being targeted is like, clearly there's a huge response to stories on this individual. How many stories can we get on this individual is definitely, that's definitely a natural.
Totally. No, the algorithms are now at play, and clearly Sterling stories do well. That is the number one. By the way, that's the number one reason that they're up there. And then number two is about the treatment. Yeah. And maybe the more things you have in about bling and money, they do better again.
But what base are you triggering then? And that's the broader point.
And is there a responsibility to not further feed that or influence that, is I guess where John Barnes is coming in.
But I think it's really started the discussion now, though, in a way that...
It hasn't. It'll be gone in a day. 2 days.
Yeah, but we'll see. Okay, but we'll
Christmas
see.
will interrupt all this, then we'll be into talk of overworked players.
No, that's true. No, okay, but the next time Sterling does something in his personal life, whatever it may be, we'll see.
I think what it will certainly
maybe it won't be him, it'll just be the next guy. That's the problem. Yeah.
There'll certainly be an awareness and a vigilance about stories about black footballers now. I think that they'll be called.
I hope so.
Yeah,
I'd hope so.
Be called.
Yeah.
That'll be interesting to see actually what impact it has on that whole area. So there's live football this evening.
There is indeed. Watford can climb into the top half of the Premier League table tonight. They make the trip to Goodison Park to face Everton, and indeed former Hornets manager Marco Silva, Seamus Coleman captaining that Everton side tonight. A Valentine's weekend date with Dr. Crokes is Mullinalaghta's reward for their surprise Leinster Championship victory yesterday. Longford champions were 1-8 to 1-6 winners over two-time All-Ireland winners Kilmacud Crokes at Bournemouth O'Connor Park. Speaking with our Rushian after the game, Mullinalaghta manager Mickey Graham was asked what makes the club, drawn from a membership of 155 no less, so special.
Unity, and it comes back to every player playing for each other and every player making the sacrifices. If any lad, with no lads miss training, simple as, we have lads that are guards that take their annual leave so they can be at training. If anyone has to miss training, it's a genuine excuse. The lads pull up on everything, they take ownership of the whole lot, and we know that we've such a small panel player, we need everybody's putting shoulder to the wheel, and that's what we do. And the team spirit and the community in Mullinalaghta is second to none. Like, the people just get around them, win, lose. If we'd have lost that game today, the people in Mullinalaghta would have come down and lifted them players off the field today. They were so proud of them, and that's what it is. It's just a real sense of togetherness and unity there.
Dan's the type of lad who would have said Rocky always had a puncher's chance against Ivan Drago. The Mighty Ducks were bound to win, and Danny LaRusso was in a different league to the boys from Cobra Khan. Where's the love for a good underdog story, Dan from Barry?
I love the underdog story. That's what
I think you might have misinterpreted it.
I was up for the Mighty Ducks. Although I probably knew what was going to happen by the end of the movie.
Well, you're shrewd like that, Dan.
So much an underdog story. It was like, well, hang on.
I mean, how did you see that coming,
What
Dan?
if the Mighty Ducks had lost? It would have been the most really unsatisfying end to the whole...
There wouldn't have been a Mighty Ducks 2, that's for sure.
No.
If anything, the great surprise in Rocky is that he doesn't win in Rocky 1, Although maybe they had a second Rocky in mind.
I don't think they did.
Yeah.
No?
They did. Like, there's a couple of years in coming, actually, I think, Rocky 2.
That's 1970s realism.
There you go. That's that. And who wrote it himself?
Yeah.
Sly.
I keep quoting this bloody Matt Damon interview with Bill Simmons recently because they were making a comparison with Damon and how can his name have escaped me? Ben Affleck, who were offered a ton of money to not be in the movie.
He was the bomb in Phantom, Joe.
You know, they're like, please don't be in this movie. We'll get other actors.
Good Will Hunting.
Yeah, because they'd wrote it, obviously. Yeah. Written it. And the other comparison was Stallone. I think was it Stallone they offered? It was a lot of money. I think it was 100 or 200 grand at the time to not be in Rocky.
Take this and go away.
Yeah, you've written a nice little script there. Well, we can do something with that. Obviously, no one knows who you are, so you can't be in the movie. And I'll check how much it was. But it was definitely, in the long term, a good financial decision.
Yeah.
On Stallone's
Another
part.
underdog story there.
It is. Well, Tony, though, is having none of this. Lads, let's get real.
Stern tone.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Let's get real.
Sit up a bit straighter. I think this won't be an uncommon point. This was a great win. Okay, be fair to Tony. This was a great win by the Longford team.
Mullinalaghta, okay, not Rockies.
Yeah, Mullinalaghta. But the standard, he says, is equivalent to the Leinster Senior League. There is no comparison between them and what the Irish women's team did in the World Cup and the Irish rugby team did as well, who play an international sport, says Tony. I think that'll be a view out there.
Well, this is what all these debates come back to, isn't it? It's sort of local v international and what constitutes.
I know.
It's almost as if they're different accomplishments and shouldn't be compared.
Well, it's the end of season awards and we have to pick the team of the year, so.
Yeah, but I suppose, there's a lot of the awards in Ireland, they don't go down the route of like having 40 different awards.
How do you compare the lads who used up their annual leave with the Guards, as the manager was just talking about, versus Johnny Sexton, who has trained diligently and professionally for every minute of his life?
I suppose didn't the hockey team touch both those in the sense that they were actually playing against full-time teams effectively when they were...
If anything, the hockey team should win for being subject to what Shane Ross decided to do to them straight off the plane.
That could be every team in Irish sport, though. We all have to cope with Shane Ross's presence in our lives.
To be shepherded into the Ross press conference with no idea what was happening, and to be subjected to that.
Again, you need to narrow down which Shane Ross press conference that was.
Well, we know what Shane.
Well, I know which one it was, but I mean,
that was the stunt to end all stunts. As compensation, they should probably win Team of the Year for that. I think it's probably hard to look past the rugby team this year. It's a perfect season. Like, it's just
good season.
Unrepeatable. It's a good season.
It's a great season.
Could have been better, says Dan.
Good season. I'm just saying it was a fantastic sequence of results. But is next year not the really big year?
Yes, you could certainly argue that.
Saying for a mid-table finish and a FA Cup semi-final,
the schedule.
Richie's on the Bows bandwagon here.
The schedule,
the Marley shirt didn't get.
The schedule is beyond the rugby players' control, unfortunately, Dan. They couldn't really control. They couldn't magic up a World Cup for you.
No, it's fantastic what they did, but
it doesn't need to be a but, Dan.
They did stuff they did before.
Just be happy.
Just all in one line. Whereas the hockey team may never ever. This could be their moment in time.
Well, in the professional era, they never went down to Australia and won a series.
No, that's true. It's a
they won a Grand Slam at Twickenham.
Achievement, but they're
laudable.
They're very good. They're very good. Like they
get Ewan McKenna on the phone right now. Ewan, come on in here.
They would into a lot of these games fancied. I'm just saying that. I just think
on Dan's side, Joe.
The hockey team. I think why would you get Ewan on? You're going to be completely done.
Get Rory in early.
No, exactly. Get Rudd back in. Yeah.
Were they fancied in every game? They weren't fancied in the New Zealand game. They weren't favourites in the New Zealand game.
There's a lot. I actually, in fairness, I remember Rory in our paper doing a piece 2 days before saying New Zealand have never been this vulnerable. I remember that. It was a good piece because
they weren't the favourites. That's different.
Favourites.
That's different.
Favourites.
And they wouldn't have been favourites in Australia after losing the first test. So they were in Australia, they lost the first test and they had to win 2 on the bounce. And New Zealand.
Yeah, but they're going to be more fancy than Australia going into next year's World Cup, right? They're ranked ahead of them.
Yes. Hence the achievement. They've improved massively.
Okay.
Gone to 2 in the world and they're within a touching distance of New Zealand. It's laudable. No, we heard you. It's laudable.
With these debates that we end up chipping away at good debates. I'm just thinking that the hockey one, surely that's more unique.
Get into a bloody World Cup final.
You can't have different...
It's a World Cup final. That's the last 2.
You can't have different levels of uniqueness. It's either unique or it's not. You can't have it being more unique.
Okay.
Grammatical point.
Oh, God.
This is what you're reduced to.
Must be a great pub debate with you around Christmas time, Joe.
Can we at least...
Where are you having your Christmas drinks to discuss
as a starting point, can we have the best grammar? Can we aim for the best grammar?
I've got a really good point for you here now, yeah.
Look, that was petty on my part, but this is what happens in these debates.
Look, exactly.
I don't know. I actually don't know who the team of the year is, actually.
And there'll be people out there saying the Dubs. Where are the Dubs? I know the people who I actually know all the people who.
I know it's
who
not the
say
Dubs.
this.
It's not the Dubs this year.
It's never the Dubs any year. That's their problem.
I think it will be next year. I think
I think it will be the World Cup, man.
I think it will be a culmination of the Dubs.
The World Cup is the one next year, surely. No?
Look, if Ireland win the World Cup, then yes, that beats the Dubs.
But
like Dublin this year didn't fend off what they had to fend off in previous years.
Have some Facebook pages after you tonight, I'll tell you that much.
They didn't. I mean, Dublin will acknowledge that. They won the All-Ireland at a canter this year. But if they win 5 in a row, that's a serious
Even if they win at a canter?
Yes, even if they win at a canter, I think.
Right.
Because it's a mythical thing almost. It's never been done and it is creating history. Now look, if Ireland win the World Cup and Dublin do the 5 in a row, I think you have to lean towards the team who win an international World Cup.
There you go.
That's not controversial.
No, it's not controversial at all. It's a fair point.
The Irish rugby team is a cod, so says Dan McDonnell from Paul. Yeah, there we go. That's right.
No, that's a big year for them next year.
Yeah, it's actually an impossible
Why have we gone down
conversation.
this road?
I don't know.
I think we started it.
Can we just say congratulations to Mullinalaghta?
Yeah, I think that's an amazing story.
Leave it at that.
155 members.
Well, you have them in third place now.
No, I don't. No, I don't.
Where do you have them?
Oh, I think they'd be them or hockey be first or second. I'm not sure which I'd go for. Yeah.
So you have the Irish rugby team third after Mullinalaghta and Irish women's hockey.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. I think we're pretty much done. Is there anything must bring the people news-wise? Because we're gone over time.
I'll just say Kieran Sadlier has joined English League One side Doncaster Rovers. The Cork City top scorer from the season just gone was out of contract at Turner's Cross and has attracted interest from a number of English clubs. He signed an 18-month deal with Donny, who currently reside in the League One playoff spots.
Cheers, Rich. So Jim McGuinness going to Charlotte Independence, his first managerial job. We're talking to him next.
Off the Ball on News Talk.
Thanks to Screwfix.ie, championing the trade with a choice of over 20,000 quality trade products.
The Pat Kenny Show.
On tomorrow's programme, former Taoiseach Bertie Ahern ahead of that crucial Brexit vote. The Irish company helping people travel overseas to skip healthcare waiting lists, and Broadway hits the Abbey stage. The writers and cast of the Tony Award-winning musical Come Far Away join us in studio.
The Pat Kenny Show.
With MasterCard.
Tomorrow morning at 9.
On News Talk.
For all your corporate gifts, go to Molloys.ie. That's Molloys.ie.
There are more people experiencing homelessness in Ireland now than ever before. There is one way you can help this Christmas. Support Peter McVerry Trust to refurbish, renovate or repair 100 homes. Support Peter McVerry Trust to help 100 people and families leave homelessness behind permanently. Visit pmvtrust.ie/100 homes or call 01 823 0776 and help more people home this Christmas. Thank you.
Designed to stand out, the new Lexus NX demands attention at every turn. Our midsize SUV is a self-charging hybrid featuring satellite navigation with connected services and Lexus safety system as standard, so you're always ready for the future. And now you can choose from a range of flexible payment options or avail of our hybrid trade-up allowance worth €2,000. Experience the luxurious new NX at your Lexus retailer. Lexus. Experience amazing.
Rod Stewart.
I love your honey. Megan, I wish I'd never seen your face.
Live at Parky Queeve, Saturday, May 25th. Subject to licence.